get this bad boy started. Hopefully Discord doesn't start with all the doubledness that it's been doing.
Well, it's when somebody's in Discord and you're getting that from their and restream, right? Isn't that why?
Yeah. I think it's because I had two services plugged into it, so I turned one of them off. So, hey, we lost Thomas.
Oh,
Any funky? No funky tweets went out. Okay, cool. All right. All right. Alrighty. Thomas, you back with us?
Yep.
All right, brothers. I'm gonna get it started. Does anybody know how many days of quarantine this is? It doesn't matter. We can talk about it in the show. I've completely lost track of it. Okay. Okay, here you go. Let's do this. All right, I'm gonna take your listeners' advice, John, and try to give a little information about the show. So it's gonna be a little longer than typical, but I'll get to you. I promise. what was the saying? Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. All right, let's do that. Hey, all you cool coders and JavaScript kiddies. You're listening to episode 187 of PHP Ugly, and despite what the title may lead you to believe, we are three amateur podcasters passionate about PHP development. We all make a living coding PHP and get together every week to discuss code, projects, work, running a small business, tech, and just about anything that happens to catch our fancy at the time. And even from time to time, you might even hear one of us rant about microwaves. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and with me are my best friends, John Congdon.
hello, hello.
And Thomas.
Let me get this mic more in front of my face. That's what I'm here for.
And Thomas Rideout.
Meow. I blame you.
That was terrible. you blame me? All right, I'm good with that. I did open up that can of worms. I mean, you know, it's going like that was the first show everybody started consuming when we got in lockdown. I think the whole Tiger King thing has blown over, fortunately, but I had to get one more in there. How's everybody doing?
I just started watching it.
Oh, really? Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
It's a crazy show. I started watching it too. It's crazy.
I know everything that goes on in the show because everyone talked about it incessantly for so long, and I just didn't care. And I'm actually running out of stuff to watch, and so I'm like, oh, fine. But
it's fascinating watching.
I wouldn't even say it's fascinating. It's just crazy people acting stupid.
It's a train wreck you can't take your eyes off of, and then you can't wait to watch the next one.
That's it.
I can very easily take my eyes off of it.
Just try.
I say you can't.
It goes to an older theory that I've long held, which is that when people get themselves involved in scams or illegal activity, if they invest enough time in it, they eventually bury themselves with it and have no option but to lie and cheat and steal to keep themselves afloat.
Oh, but that show is so much more. I mean, the hypocrisy of it, and it's just crazy Americans being crazy Americans. I wonder if other countries have people like that. I always wonder.
Oh, Russia. Yeah, very much.
So, all right. And slap the table because, my mic's right here, but how has everybody's week been?
Pretty great.
Great. Good, we can wrap this up then. What?
I decided to spend some time on Pluralsight because they have a whole free month for this month.
Is it just April? Is it about to run out? Is that what you're telling
I
me? You
think
only
it
have a
is.
week left?
Yeah, I think it is just April. So I did the Python course. I'm doing a Docker course. I'm doing a Vue.js course, a React course. So I've got like the next 4 days of watching videos lined up
Binge
for me.
watching, binge watching
Yeah.
coding. So what did you think about Python? I'd always have said if I didn't get into web development, I would have definitely gravitated more towards Python.
So Python has these great strengths. So much of them are math based, and I am not a math person.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to like wrap my head around some parts of it. I did manage to get the bitmap writer working and write myself a fractal generator, which was cool. But it's a long time ago. There was this sort of general suggestion, don't use a ternary in a ternary in a ternary. You never chain ternaries in any way. If you've got two,
That's supposed to do.
no, if you've got two of them together, you've done something wrong. And
Whoops.
Python seems to like take the exact opposite tack, which is like if you have a while loop, you can condense that into a tuple just right away. Just you can take an entire while loop where you're doing 7 things and put it in a single line. And
Well, that's always the fun thing about Python is doing it as few lines as possible.
yeah, and I can understand that now, but
It was like
Boy.
that. It's like that show that I don't think it was a show when I was a kid, but my parents named that tune and so many notes. Same thing
Yeah.
with Python. It's like, oh yeah, I can code that in 3 lines. Oh, I can do it in 2 lines. I can do it in 1. There's no return, no character. It'll just be a really long line.
yeah, and like at first that didn't make sense to me because spaces are important. Like it's a space sensitive language. Like, well, how can you crunch everything onto one line if spaces are important, if that's what you need? And you start looking at tuple unpacking and list range tricks. Like you can just take a list and then select 2:5, and that'll get you the second item through the 5th item. Like you can do weird stuff with it, and it definitely took me out of my normal area of understanding. And I think I got all the way to the end of the course, and I was like, the things he's saying don't make sense. They're not registering anymore. I missed something. So I actually rewound to the middle of the whole course and did that 3-hour portion of it again, but this time writing code along with the video. And that cleared up a lot of it for me. But it was a challenge.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
is there any that chose Python, or is it just because you could?
Just because Python is really common as a command line scripting language. There's a lot of projects that I really enjoy that I want to contribute to that are Python based. And it's a good one to have in your pocket as DevOps as well as programming, just general development. So, and it interacts with files really easy. Like if I need to parse out, if I need to parse out information from a CSV, the script my go-to script in PHP is 10 lines. But the one to do that, the same exact thing.
10 lines? What the hell are you doing in 10 lines?
To pull the header out and attach it as the key to the array. And then to loop over every row on an array map. But in Python, it's 1 line. Like, it's just 1 long line.
Yep, it's fun. So
PHP.
you're not converting yourself, huh? Python. Geez, PHP still has your heart.
Oh yeah, but Python has my
pays the
interest.
bills.
Pays the bills. That's right.
Yeah, I saw you got into it with Taylor about paying the bills. a little today.
I was wondering if
I
you
did
guys...
not. I haven't talked to that guy in forever. Stop blaming me. Oh wait, you weren't talking to me.
Eric
I just-
Eric turned in a tweet that had a little harsh wording in it.
I just think it's absurd for anybody in our industry, especially PHP developers who make a living on the web, anybody in our industry to say that they don't make money off open source. Because you do. Whether you know it or not, you do. And I understood the point that Taylor thought he was making in the sense that
Can you rewind and say what that point was? I have no clue what you guys are talking about.
So I don't have it pulled up here, but I'll paraphrase it. Taylor basically sent out a tweet that said that summarized to say that he doesn't make money off open source. That the money he makes is off the solutions and services he sells. And I just replied to him to say, but you have to, you're not saying that things you do make money off of, you make money off of them because of open source and because of what you've done in the open source community and because of who you became in the open source community. You make money off your services because you're riding on the back of all the stuff all the open source stuff that brought you there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great business model and I'm happy he was able to succeed on it. But don't throw out there that you're not making money off of open source because you are.
A big part of his argument was that was about other people. So the whole thing came from a conversation about sponsorware and GitHub supporting sponsorship of packages and things like that. And Taylor basically said, if you want to make money, don't open source it. If you want it to be open source it. Don't expect to get paid if it's open source. And I think where it went off the rails was his argument that his money came from his audience and that Laravel got him that audience, but the two aren't connected.
Is what he was implying, yeah.
Right, which is what he was saying, and I was like, you just made the connection. You without the audience, you wouldn't make money, and without open sourcing Laravel, you wouldn't have an audience. If you went up against,
was this tweet just not clear? Was he saying he hasn't made money off of Laravel specifically?
He was touting himself as a smart businessman, and that people shouldn't expect to make money if they're developing open source software, which
is true.
I think it's kind of true. I think there's another case to say every interview I've had, they ask what my involvement in the community is, and if I say I'm developing an open source package that's very popular, that's really going to help.
Well, not only that, but I think Taylor is an argument against himself. He proves that, if you embrace open source enough, you can model a business around that by services you provide. So everything he's making money off of are services he provides for his open source solution. That's how open source is supposed to work, right?
Right,
so
and they run on open source.
Envoy, that was
on
my
AWS. It runs on
that was my other
Apache.
argument. It's like PHP is open source. Nginx is open source. Apache is open source. So you're making money off of open source, whether you're willing to acknowledge it or not. I mean, I couldn't imagine going back to Cold Fusion or ASP days where you had to pay money to even learn. There was a paywall to even see the knowledge behind the development. And, and there was no understanding of direction or anything. You were just at the mercy of one company saying, this is how things are going. This is how we're developing this product. So, yeah, I get his point. And again, I'm praising him. You have a business model that has made open source successful for you. But don't downplay. He's like Trump, man. He's got all these followers who just hear, open source is bad. You won't make money at open sourcing stuff. It's all they heard. It's like you're in a position of responsibility. You can't send out messages like that. You need to be clear about your message. You make money because of open source. You need to be thankful of that. And yes, you have a business model. that's afforded you it. And the business model is actually based on the business model of open source. If you read The Cathedral and the Bazaar, that's exactly what they say. They say you start to build services around open source solutions, and you charge for those services. That's how you make money.
Well,
So-
and on top of that, this was sort of injected into a conversation about GitHub supporting sponsorware and methods for sponsoring projects, and he just sort of said, "It's not going to happen. That's no one can make money that way, and it isn't going to work." And I'm like, dude, if one of my caveats to my company is, hey, we need this software, but we should give them a sponsorship of $5 a month for it, then my company is not going to have a huge problem with that.
Not to mention, not everybody is a privileged first world resident, right? So some of these people who live in third world countries or lesser countries, that sponsorship very well may be enough for quality of life for them. You don't know that, it's.
I think Taylor sets a very high bar for what success is.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. I mean that's good.
Sure.
I don't knock him for that, but he needs to be clearer about the message he's putting out there. So, I mean, the guy's done well, and we help him with it.
To clarify, this wasn't an original tweet from him. He was replying to somebody else.
Right.
Okay.
And then I jumped in there with, hey, careful what you say. So, yeah. Again, the guy's got a great model, and whether he knows it or not, whether he's willing to acknowledge it or not, he does have an open source model. He should be a better steward of that message.
And it reminds me of wealthy people who believe that hard work is everything in making millions of dollars, where the reality is luck is everything. Hard work is valuable.
Or a pedigree where your dad can give you a couple $1 million to start your business.
No, hard work is important, but it's not hard work that makes those millions. It's luck plus that hard work.
Absolutely.
You can't work yourself rich. There's no time in the world for that. To really get rich, to be a person who's making $1,000 an hour, no one can work at $1,000 an hour pace. You can get lucky into $1,000 an hour position, but there's no pace of.
Can I get a how-to? Because I could really use that.
Well, there's no amount of work that validates $1,000 an hour. None.
Mm.
And there's people who are making that every couple minutes. So don't say that it's hard work that got you there. It's not hard work. It's luck.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. So, yeah, thanks for calling that out, Thomas. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you saw it.
That's what I do. I already had the tweet pulled up and everything.
Hey, throw it in the show notes because we'll add it to the show notes. So I did come across an article that I thought you'd be happy about. Did you see that California Attorney General swooped in at the last minute and put a kibosh to the sale of .org domain?
I did.
Well,
Yeah, it's because
I was asking why. I don't know the context here.
So ICANN is the holder of the .org domains and is basically paid to act in the best interest of the people of the internet. And they had done a poll that said, hey, what if we sold maintenance and pricing for .org off to a third-party company so they could manage it? And everyone who had a voting right said no. And ICANN said, well, whoopsie-daisy, we did it already.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally against the model of ICANN. They're not supposed to be doing this. And then to go against the voting of its constituents is even more so suspect. And the company they were selling it to is a for-profit company that was set to a specific price increases every couple years. So like it just got more and more and more expensive, and didn't steward the .org domains in any way. So
what did California do now?
So the Attorney General eventually got a hold of the story. Someone said, "Hey, listen, there's this company that's trying to totally screw over its own investors and its own interests, which we think is illegal." But no one seems to be doing anything about it, and they brought it up to the California AG, and the AG said stop, which they got to do.
Well, they paused. They paused it. They didn't actually stop it. They were just like, hold on, we want to take a look at this.
But there's going to be an investigation now into, is this a legal business practice? Is this against the stewardship of the share of the rights holders and the shareholders? And that's what people wanted.
Yeah. So that was good. That was good. And all this craziness that didn't manage to slip through the cracks. I thought you'd be happy to see that.
I am. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm not happy about?
What's that?
Laravel 7.7's been released. Another week, another version.
So I got something for you on that, but I'm gonna let you talk about 7.7 first. Did you upgrade yet?
Nope.
Oh?
Nope.
Why
Haven't
not?
had time. Oh. I haven't had the time to go through all of my routes and fix them.
Just pull down master, do a composer upgrade, and move on with your life, man. It's really
That's
easy.
what failed.
That's what failed?
Yeah, it failed on trying to compress the route files.
Oh, it sounds like you got bigger problems.
Yeah.
I came across a site, though. I thought you would like. Well, actually, you don't even need the site, to be honest with you. You can actually just follow the Twitter handle. I found that to be just as efficient. But I found a site called Laravel Merge. So Laravel-merged. And all it does is give you a list of all the PRs that have been merged into Laravel, and you can kind of just scan them. So for somebody like yourself and myself, who have a lot of Laravel packages out there, just kind of pop in there every day and see what 3 or 4 packages got merged into master, just so you know. Look at this, the 23rd.
I did see that.
That's today, the 23rd. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things merged into the 7 branch just today. That's after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 merges. You guys, 4 merges yesterday into 7, 1 to 8, and 1 to 6. So yeah, a Laravel merge is a great little resource to add to your morning read.
And look at all those non-employed contributors making this open source product something valuable.
Great point. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, we didn't even touch on the fact that you got thousands of people contributing to an open source framework you created that you don't have to pay for.
So where's this located at? Because I just
Laravel dash merged with a D, mergd.com.
Yeah.
Merged.
Or you can just try to remember your password to the Trello board, and
I'm on
there.
Yeah.
Nuno's in chat. Hey, dude, I think I just did a profile. You're up. Are you up in Canada, man? What's that region called up in Canada that I just did a profile on? I was doing a profile on a user group up there. It should be released in next month's PHP Architect magazine, and it's all a picture of you on their meetup group. I'm like, oh, I gotta put that in the magazine.
I love how you just completely switch gears and expect everyone to know what you're talking about.
I said he was in chat. I said that. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, he is. He's up in Toronto area. So yeah, I did a profile of, God bless America. I cannot remember the name of that user group. There's a cluster of 3 up and around Toronto, and I just did this one. What was it called? York Region PHP user group is who I submitted a profile for next month's PHP Architect magazine. And yeah, I saw a picture of him in there. I'm like, oh man, I've got to submit that to the magazine. Now, I don't know if they'll use it in the magazine, but it was one of like 3 pictures I submitted for the user group. So hopefully it gets published. I'll let you know if you. Well, I'm sure I don't have to let you know, man. I'm sure you've got a subscription. I won't even ask if you have a subscription, right? Right.
So
all right.
back to what I was saying. Here's something that's in 7.7.
I'm very much a squirrel person. You're right, John. Squirrel.
Fix stringable is empty. So there was a check for is empty.
Yeah.
That used the PHP method empty,
which
would return false. I'm sorry, a string of 0 would be evaluated as empty, so it would be evaluated as true. And this fix changes it so that a string is just directly compared to a string that has no content in it. So this is a bug fix, but it's a behavior breaking bug fix.
It's a BC break. Yeah.
So is this 7.7 or is this 8.0 if that breaks something for somebody?
I don't know because it's a bug fix.
But I've seen other framework developers talk about this kind of bug fix, which is that it isn't necessarily a bug because isEmpty is calling the empty function. So it might be incorrectly documented, but it's calling a valid method, and the valid method is returning a valid string or a valid response, and people are building behavior around that. And if you look at the code, you couldn't say, oh, that's incorrect. It shouldn't be comparing to an empty string. It should be comparing to empty, the PHP helper. So if this behavior has been in the system and people are using it, then you decide that that's not actually what it was supposed to do. To fix that, you have to deprecate the behavior, and in a future branch, in a future backwards compatible breaking branch, you change it. But like to change it on a weekly fix, like a weekly patch, this is to me a bad backward compatibility break. If I expect 0 as a string to evaluate to false because it's been doing that since whenever,
that they could log to deprecated at that point. They could deprecate that bug. They could let people know, hey, this is returning what you expect, but it's wrong. Get it into their logs so they can see that and really fix it later.
But in that case, it's not really a bug. It's an unintended behavior.
Right, but you could deprecate unintended behavior.
Sure. But what you should do, you shouldn't patch it in for 3 days before the next version comes out.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a stupid question because I don't watch the Laravel logs unless I'm having an issue. But do they actually spit out deprecation warnings? I don't think they do.
I think if you're running tests, then it might. I think PHP Unit will spit deprecation warnings out.
How's PHP Unit going to know deprecation warnings of a Laravel framework specific function?
I think it's a doc block tag.
Oh, okay, all right. And it could very well log deprecations in the Laravel log. I just, like I said, I don't watch my logs. I probably should, and if it doesn't, it should. That would be a great feature to put in.
The main project I work on, we're going through a huge update right now because, again, being a legacy app, after it got to a point where you're looking in request, post, get, and you're not doing is set everywhere. It was just a bad practice from well before I started, and eventually it led to error reporting being E_all and not deprecated, not noticed, not this, not this. So it's basically all you're really logging are fatal errors at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the process now of changing a lot of that code so that we can then increase the debugging level or the error reporting level so that we can start looking for deprecated crap so we can move to PHP 8 when we can.
When is yeah.
With all that said, he should be throwing stuff into the logs and you should be watching them. Is where I was going with that.
That would be nice. I'm gonna make a point to try to have an answer about that next time, because I really don't think there's any deprecation notice in Laravel, and I don't know if there's deprecation notices in other frameworks.
No, because doesn't he just basically take pull requests and merge them in?
Well, yeah.
No, he does deprecate stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, but he does. He has been known to deprecate things and just kind of let it be known out there that this will go away in the next version that bump. So I just don't know if there's anything, unless you're following him on Twitter or you're in the Laravel community where you're paying attention to this stuff. I don't know if there's anything for a developer out there to give them any sort of notification just by having log reporting or anything.
Well, I know it is a doc block. It is an @deprecated doc block. I think PHP MD and PHP CS. Yeah, but I think there's a couple different programs out there that sniff for those doc blocks.
Mm-hmm. Daryl says, Daryl in chat says Symfony does deprecation notices a lot. Yeah, it seems like a great practice.
So, yeah, you shouldn't be relying just on the doc block. You should actually be emitting an error log.
Nuno pointed out that helpers got deprecated. They're all.
But how did you know that, Nuno? You knew that because you're part of the community. You probably saw Taylor talk about it. You didn't see it. Come
he listens to us.
Or you listen
that's
to
true.
us.
We
Still us bitch about it.
We are the eminent Laravel bitching podcast. Thanks to me.
Yeah, we should be called Laravel Ugly, not PHP Ugly.
I think we all contribute in our own special way. So
but, I mean, just to roll back, a backwards breaking change that is not necessary, that changes a behavior, should not be included in a weekly dot release. That's bad and dumb, and it's continuing to frustrate me every single Thursday. Thursday.
I can appreciate that. We have talked in the past. I'm gonna kind of move on. We'll stick with Laravel because this is a Laravel package, but I'm gonna move on a little bit here. We have in the past talked a lot about event sourcing. Myself, John as well, I think, have become big fans of event sourcing. But the problem with event sourcing is it's not an easy implementation. Like, there's a lot of effort into implementing event sourcing, and a good amount of management with it as well. So sometimes you actually might have a need for audit tracking, but you don't really need a full-blown event source sort of architecture for it. A friend of mine turned me onto a package called Laravel Auditing. Super, super simple. So I've actually implemented this on a project I'm working on. It's just a composer install. Again, a Laravel package, so this is specific to Laravel. Creates an audit table, and then all you do is you include it as a trait on any model that you want to audit. So anytime a create happens or an edit happens, and you can get very granular with exactly what you want to audit, but it's pretty cool. So I implemented it on the user table, and anytime somebody goes in there and edits a user, it gives you the before and after of what they edited, not the whole record. Just to say, oh yeah, the name was changed from this to this, and who edited it. And I don't know. I know we're talking more and more about the ability of tracking changes in applications. And that's why we keep going back to event sourcing, because event sourcing is so much more powerful. Event sourcing allows you to, we got into it last week about how event sourcing allows you to go back and look for data that you didn't realize you needed. And this is nothing compared to that. This is just simple, an audit trail. So if you have an application where you need to know who's making what changes and what gets changed, this is a super simple package. It's called Laravel Auditing.
Especially-
It's from Owen IT. What's that?
Yeah, especially if you're doing it on an app that's already existing and you're not trying to get into event sourcing. Auditing is a good way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
We've
I
talked
was
in the
happy
past
with
about auditing and how I use a lot of database triggers to kick off auditing, and find it invaluable when I'm actually trying to track down something that happened, whether it was intentional or not.
Right. Yep.
Especially when you can blame a user and say, "No, this is your fault. You did it. Leave me alone.
And
You clicked the delete button. Damn it."
Yeah, stop using it wrong.
To shuffle back to event sourcing, did we ever get any direction on the whole right to be forgotten in the world of event sourcing and how you go about doing that? I know that was a big topic for us, and we were doing a lot of research on it at one point, but I don't remember ever actually finding a concrete solution for it.
Say that again. What?
So-
Skype is up to me.
Yeah. So when we were going through the world of event sourcing, and we were looking at implementing it for a client's project, one of the topics that came up was the right to be forgotten laws in other countries. We don't have to worry about it currently here in the U.S., but from what everybody says is coming. And the question came up of how does that work in the world of event sourcing architecture? How do you do that? And I know you and I started looking into it a little bit, and I got nowhere with it. I couldn't remember if you had found some solutions around that.
The couple of solutions I found were encrypt the data within the event, and you're storing that key somewhere, and then you just lose the key. So they're forgotten, you can't decrypt it. Sometime in the future, you will be able to decrypt it, though, so it's not the best way. The other way is to store the actual information outside of the event. So your event now becomes a reference to some data, and then the right to be forgotten, you actually destroy the data, but you don't affect the event.
Oh, I remember that solution. Yeah, I remember you talking about that solution. Yeah. And Frank in chat just echoed the whole encryption approach as well.
It gets messier than that. Google won a case in the EU. So the place where this really became an issue was when the EU passed the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, and the win that they got from the EU was basically, as long as links about you don't show up in search results in Europe, then we're fine.
Oh, interesting.
So as long as the search results adhere to local laws, that's fine. But where they're storing your personal information in many servers across the globe, that's not something that can be practically worried about.
Huh. Interesting.
But again, that's Google's one win in this case. If it were to come to you, you would have to make a decision.
we don't have Google money and Google attorneys. That's
right.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
To me, I'm assuming if you do your absolute best to really get rid of someone's data or make it not accessible, we may have it in events, but there should be an event that eventually gets rid of it. So assuming you're replaying your events, nobody's ever, one, going to know, and two, you're not, I don't know, you're not doing any harm at that point.
And that's sort of the issue, is that there are a lot of legal covers you can take that just say, I made best effort.
Yeah, we tried. Yeah.
And that's, for corporations, that'll actually cover your ass a lot. If you can show that you made your best effort, that can actually cover your ass. So, yeah.
So I got a question for you, Thomas. You're one of the few people in the world that I know still uses Windows. You and Frank in chat, I know you use Windows as
Indeed.
well.
I just started getting Docker running on my Windows machine.
So it's still running. Well, that's a plus. Did you see what happened recently? Well, maybe I should ask you first. Is your machine patched? And if it's not, you might want to hold off for a little while.
Actually, I got a message popped up that said reboot now or wait till later.
Yeah, you really might want to wait till later for that one.
Why? What's going on?
I saw an article in TechSpot come up, I guess, and I haven't heard of this happening in so long. I remember back in the Windows NT days, whenever you applied a patch to NT, it was always a crapshoot of whether or not the machine was going to reboot or not, or whether you're going to get a blue screen of death. I mean, that was just life, right? To say you would apply a patch and say, okay, is this actually going to work or not? But
Yeah, I'd apply a patch, and I wouldn't be sure if it would turn off correctly.
that was back in like the 90s, early 2000s. I haven't heard about it recently, but I guess recently Windows released a patch that not only started blue screening people, apparently there are reports that it started deleting files as well, which I don't know, man. I mean, that really kind of seems like paranoia stretch. Like, dude, I had my taxes done, but your patch erased them. I don't know. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. I just haven't seen a story like this in so long that Microsoft released a patch. And again, this was an incremental change. This wasn't a big version jump, Thomas. It was just a little incremental change that just bricked a bunch of desktops.
Well, now here's my question, though, is that if you have the predominant operating system in the world and everyone is updating to the same version generally the same day, you can expect one or two people to have some kind of catastrophic failure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
just like little small incremental Laravel patches. There's always going to be those edge cases that have a problem with them.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like page fault in non-paged area, ACPI BIOS error, inaccessible boot device. I mean, these things are not related to each other.
Well, and this was particularly nasty as well. So something really went wrong. I don't know. It is one of those things like, how did this? It's not like Microsoft just willy-nilly releases patches either. They have a vigorous testing process as well. So,
well, and the idea of which Windows version you're running is far more obtuse than people realize, because there are 3 LTS versions of Windows 10. And then there's the consumer versions, and then there's the government versions, and then there's the specialty government versions where they have to apply to laws that were passed in India and laws that were passed in China. So, like, you could be running one of many, many, many versions of Windows.
I'm so happy I'm not in that world anymore. I am so happy. I can't keep up with that stuff, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I can play games.
Who's got time for games?
I can play games. I don't have Windows, and I don't like playing games. But
that's a sentence that summarizes John all too well. I could play games. I just don't like playing games.
I can play 5 minutes at a time, and then I gotta turn it off and do something else. So I've got one game that fits that criteria, and I'm good to go.
Are you still Rocket League in it? Are you still playing Rocket League?
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you played the new Rocket League mode, the heat-seeking missile, or the goal-seeking missile?
No, I heard about it, but I haven't gone and looked at it yet.
It is so fun. It is totally casual.
You got to explain to me what a goal-seeking missile is.
So every time you hit the ball, it fires off of your car like a missile, and it guides itself into the opponent's goal.
So you don't have to aim anymore. You just have to bump the ball.
Just have to hit it. All you have to do is hit it.
Hell, I might be able to do that, John.
It would
take a while, but
nope. It is insanely difficult. They released it as a casual mode, so you can drop in and out any time without punishment. People are taking it deadly serious because it is so hard. So, like, you jump into a random game, you will get bitched at for failing to hit the ball.
So we should have streamed John trying to teach me how to play Rocket League. The ball was literally sitting in the court, and I'm just like driving around the ball. And John's like, "No, just right in the ball." Okay, I'm trying, and I'm just like doing circles around the ball. He's like, "No, just touch the ball. Just touch it. I'm like, I'm trying, and I'm hitting everything but the ball.
Yeah, that's what the starting the game looks like. And once
I
you get
hated it.
out of that area, oh, it's so fun.
I haven't played it since.
I'm finally gold 2, maybe gold 1-4 in doubles, and silver 2-3 in
Nice.
Singles.
Oh,
I don't play.
I can boost you through doubles. I can bring you up to platinum 3 in doubles at least.
Yeah, and then you leave, and then I'm right back down.
No, you learn from watching. You learn from playing.
Do you guys have partners you typically play with, or do you just do random partners?
I don't. I just get in and play.
I played with Spence for a little bit, but he doesn't play much.
I'm the same way. I don't want to jump on with somebody because then you feel bad for having to leave, but I want to play 1 or 2 games and then get back to what I've been doing lately, which is Android work again.
Yeah, just text me or just message me on Slack and say, hey, 1 or 2 games, is that fun? And then we'll do that. No expectation of more.
You're doing some Android development, is that what I heard?
No, we're talking about Rocket League.
We need to move on to this fight.
Yeah. So the app that I wrote, which turns out was 5 years ago, which baffles my mind.
Holy smokes, how time flies.
Where there's no maintenance on it, I finally get 2 different things. A couple months ago, it was like, hey, we need to make sure it's 64-bit available. And we have till the end of the year to make that happen. So it's been on the back burner. A couple weeks ago, I get an email saying, hey, when it's a faxing app. When you reserve a fax number, you're supposed to have that number for 24 hours, but the app shows it shows the current date and time. And so he's under the assumption that something happened to the API because the assumption is it's worked prior. Mm-hmm. And I start looking at the app. No, it's been that way for 5 years.
That sounds like the mobile developer we have on another client. It's like, yeah, no, this has never worked. I don't know why they're making a deal out of it now.
Well, this is a why 1970 bug where it's no longer 1970s, so faxes don't work.
People, it still makes money. It's not under active development because it just does what it's supposed to do.
So why? That's a question. I mean, why wouldn't it be under active development if it's making the money?
Well, because it's a done product.
What it's supposed. Yeah, it does what it's supposed to do. There's
that's a fair point.
Nobody's really saying, "Hey, I need more bells and whistles." It gets the job done. I mean, it's not like it's making them tons of money. It pays for itself. The little bit of support that is necessary, because they do pay support people to answer tickets and stuff. Usually, it's around, hey, I paid to upgrade, so when you upgrade, you're supposed to get the that phone number for a lifetime, and if something happens, we got to figure that out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so
but
lately
it's still,
out.
The fax protocol is a set protocol, so you really can't add too many bells and whistles to it.
So this isn't really it's a fax app that sends faxes in the background. It's not like I actually have to deal with the faxing protocol. So the app, all it does is take pictures of pieces of paper, puts them together, sends it off, and then when you receive a fax, it maintains an inbox of your PDFs that you can view in the application.
So it's the back end of it is just a printer with a cardboard chute that goes into a fax machine with a cardboard chute that goes into a scanner.
Yep. You got it. Exactly how it works.
I'll bet it's written in Python.
Java and PHP. So anyway, trying to figure out all of a sudden why I can't compile this in 64-bit, and I just found the answer as we were talking. So fun.
I'm glad we have your focus.
You guys are talking about boring stuff.
Now you know how our listeners feel.
Exactly. I feel bad. I don't know why we're here.
Yeah, my wife uses one of those sleep help apps, sleep storytime apps, which was weird because one of our podcast episodes showed up on it. She just, boom, out like a light.
The soothing voices of 3 developers jawing with each other.
Put you to sleep.
Oh, man. All right. So
I'm talking about me now. Calm down. I've been loving getting back into unit testing, PHP unit. I know I talk about it, but been doing it even more lately on a new application that we're writing. I've been throwing out work in progress code, trying to give other developers an idea of what's going on in my head. I don't know if it's helping or not.
Not a
But
pretty
Eric
picture,
and I got
Thomas.
onto.
It's not a pretty picture.
It's not. Eric and I got on a hour and a half long call today, trying to talk about this product and what I think it should be doing. And at the end of the day, I don't think I got my point across at all. I was like,
I think you did.
It's like, thanks for your input, but we're going to do it our way.
Oh, no, that means that you did get your point across. If they say, I don't think I understand what you're saying, then it means that you didn't get your point across. But if they say, we understand what you're saying, we're doing it our way instead, though, that means you 100% got your message through.
Only it worked that way.
When I was 25 and I had a brilliant idea and took it to my boss, I had this specific problem, where I'd say, like, hey, if we did it this and this and this, then it would be like 3 times faster. And he would say, yeah, but we're going to do it the other way. And I'd be like, okay, so you didn't understand what I said.
No. Maybe you didn't hear me.
Yeah. Clearly there's a communication breakdown here. What I said was brilliant. So, starting over. And I had a lot of trouble as a young developer with this issue, where I knew my ideas were better than what they were doing, but I had to suck it up and program what they told me to program. And I think that's something that when I am mentoring somebody, that's something I try to get across as soon as possible, because that's a you can get fired mistake. And something that junior devs should know, like, hey, you're not going to be working on the thing you want to be working on all the time. Sometimes you're going to be working on absolute garbage, and you have to smile and give the thumbs up.
You gotta do the grunt work. Yeah, that sucks.
Except my point was constantly, you can do it however you want to do it. I'm trying to share my ideas, and here's what I'm thinking.
Well, you're a very amicable person in general. I don't think Eric and I would count as that, though.
No.
No, you're wrong. Why do you keep doing this?
You're 100% right that Eric is not that person. We're in this call and somebody says, "Oh, we could do this," and Eric's like, "No, we're not doing that." I'm like, "No, it's okay. Let him. It might work."
You can do that. It would just be the wrong way to do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You know, there was somebody at the Zeppelin manufacturing plant that said, hey, maybe the Hindenburg shouldn't use hydrogen, and they got overruled. That's what you're doing to me.
Somebody thought that smoking on the Hindenburg was a good idea at one point.
Yeah. I'm just going to call this merge request, the humanity. There you go.
John, you enjoy being in meetings with me. I keep you young.
Well, we already got done saying he likes watching Tiger King, so yeah.
All right, so I have another resource. I told you guys, I think last week or maybe the week before, I told you about lobsters. I don't know if you guys started, if you added that to your daily feed or not, but lobsters was a good one. I came with another one. It just came across my desk today, and I got to be honest with you. You got to be careful around this one because the consistency of stories is not very good. But you've got to love the name. It's called php.watch. That's the URL, php.watch. And it's just PHP-specific stories. They do a lot of version tracking of releases for PHP. So we've moved on from Laravel. We're up a tier to PHP. So they talk about the changes that are coming in the releases of PHP, but they also do articles as well. Now, the reason I'm saying there's a warning is because although they've been pretty consistent so far the last couple of months, where they've released a couple of articles in April, a couple in March, or one in March, so 3 so far this year. Then they have 2 from last year, and then or 3 from last year, and then 2 from the year before that. So they don't release a lot of stories, but I definitely have added it to my kind of daily cruising, because it does go into the PHP versions, and then he has a tab here called RFCs as well, but there's nothing there yet, so I don't know what
it's
he's
just the
doing.
under construction stuff from the 90s.
Yeah, and there's also the other one we talked about, the externals.io, which if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of PHP development, and this is the C development of PHP, externals is the conversations that go on between the internal PHP developers on internals. They just post them to a board, so you don't have to be part of that mailing list and get into the internals. So there's that, and now there's this PHP Watch, which seems to complement each other pretty well. Just keeping an eye on the PHP versions and what's happening in them. I don't know. I think it was good find, so I thought I'd share it with my other PHP developers out there. It'll be in show notes, php.watch, which that is the first .watch domain I have seen, and I think that's a pretty cool one. php.watch.
I had an interesting issue the other day. I was working on a grid CSS layout on my site, and I could not figure out how to get something to take up multiple columns in the grid.
Okay.
And it turns out that's because what I thought was a reference to a tag is actually a new reserved CSS term, span.
Right. Yeah.
So span
That's
now
not very
means
new.
2 things. It's new to me, and it's stupid. You couldn't just say across or
span. I don't know.
No, span already means something in CSS. Why use it again?
What else does it mean in CSS?
A span tag.
That's HTML. That's not CSS.
No, but in CSS you can reference by tag, which is just the word span.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And now, so you can have a grid row class that says span : 5 span 5. And that's supposed to mean something. 2 different things, in fact.
Wait, span is an HTML element? What?
But yeah,
No, it's not.
It's the
Yeah.
HTML tag.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, span is the HTML tag. It's
Do you not use that all the time?
It's
when you want to put
Never.
like class.
I don't write HTML.
So like if you have a block of text that's saying you want to put styling on a part of that text inside the block, and you don't want to do a div or anything, you can put span tags around it and do a class there.
Right. Span has no inherent CSS traits.
It
Whereas
doesn't do
P-
anything.
Right. It doesn't do anything. It just encloses text or encloses elements. So if you want to change the style of something, but you don't want to break it by using a P tag or a div tag, then you use a span tag.
It's sounding familiar. I haven't done HTML in years.
It's like all the fancy CSS buttons you use the span tag. Yeah, and Frank is saying span doesn't increment the position either. Span has no impact on the DOM. It just gives a CSS taggable endpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now you're pissed off with CSS. Okay.
I'm like pissed off every day now. I'm involved in enough different things that every day some new thing is like, hey, this is stupid. You have to use it though. Ha ha ha. Wednesday is my Laravel release day. Thursday is this, whatever this happens to be.
Whatever this is, this fiery ball of trash it's turned into. This dumpster fire.
I couldn't imagine if I was using more than one framework that updated the same way Laravel does. Like if Symfony and CodeIgnite are updated at the same pace, and I had to use all three for different clients, I'd be swamped. I'd be screwed.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's no question. Yeah, Laravel is a breakneck sort of speed, man. I tell you.
Yeah.
It's challenging if you have multiple. It can be very regimented if you only have one or two applications, or even three big applications that are making money. But if you're trying to do, service-oriented architecture where you've got like 6 small applications and two big applications, and then this other application that just runs like once a month to do billing, and then trying to keep all that stuff up to date with Laravel releases is just that's when you just let you just say, okay, these can go for like a year or two. As long as they're running, we're fine. We'll the next major release, we'll circle back and spend about 2 or 3 weeks seeing what it's going to take to upgrade them to the next release of Laravel. And you just have to pick and choose which applications you're going to try to keep current.
I am considering switching to all private repositories for all of my included libraries.
We had this discussion last week as well. I was in a similar position this week where there's a library I wanted to pull down. I'm like, man, it's not really that much work. As a matter of fact, I was going to reach out to you, Thomas, because it was reCAPTCHA. And I still haven't pulled the package in because everything I read, I'm like, it should be pretty simple to implement without a package, but I'm having issues with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so the issue I ran into the other day was that I had updated a package from GitVault that on a staging server, thank God, when it was pushed out, Composer threw a 401 error, too many requests. It broke the vendor directory, which, as you know, Laravel loops over to generate the service providers list. Mm-hmm. So the deployment system went down hard, and we had to go in and delete the vendor directory and tell it to prefer source on that package. But it took down the deployment server. So I'm just like, I don't want to risk this anymore.
Yeah. Nuno in chat is touting Laravel Shift again. And, we've had this conversation several times. We're big fans of Shift. I think we're all Shift users here. We have an account. I know Thomas, you guys use the Docker implementation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with Shift is Shift works really well under two ideal scenarios. A, you're doing everything the Laravel way, and you're following the Laravel behaviors and practices. And B, all the packages you use, which is exactly what Thomas and I have been talking about the last couple of shows, all the packages you use do things the Laravel way. They stay current. They stay consistent. But the moment one of those two things deviate, and it's typically packages you use, they either don't stay consistent with Laravel implementations, or they start to fall behind on dependencies. Shift, as great as it is, it will update the core framework, but the moment you do a Composer upgrade or Composer install from the Shift merge, you start to get all these, hey, I can't go on because this package doesn't meet minimum requirements, or this package doesn't meet minimum requirements, and Shift doesn't really give you any notice of that. I just ran into that, actually.
Now, interesting move by Taylor on Monday, or on Tuesday, is he extracted Illuminate Support Collection and its related classes out of the framework and into its own Illuminate independent package, which is what I've been saying needs to be done.
Yeah, he's doing that a lot lately.
That's how we're going to get to real Semver, is by not updating those packages that don't get updated.
Yeah. John, I haven't shared this with you yet, but this we're just talking about Shift, and I tried to run a Shift on our sdphp.org website. I wanted to move it. It's still running on Vapor. It doesn't need to be out in Vapor. It's costing us way too much fucking money to be running on Vapor. So I was going to actually pull it in, but I wanted to get it current. And so Shift blew up exactly what we're talking about, dependencies on packages. That's not completely new, but the thing I was going to share with you, and Thomas, I think we've talked to you about this in the past as well. Whenever we interview new developers, one of the projects we had them work on, their first project was always the SDP, our local user group's website. And we would just assign them tasks and see if they were able to complete the task. And typically, if they completed the task and the code was running, it was like, all right, that's a good step. We'd review the code and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. This is sort of stuff. But we wouldn't have them spend too much time on it because it's just a user group website. So it was just basically giving them an understanding of our workflow, how we manage projects, what sort of code we're looking for. I went in there last weekend because I wanted to add some features to the website and start using the new Couch database server that I'm using. My God, that website is such a mess, man. It is such a mess. Oh my God, I try to refactor stuff. I'm like, this is horrible. How did we let it get to this state? I thought it was gonna take me 10 minutes to refactor a couple things, and I got in there. I'm like, I deleted so many lines of code. I'm like, what was he doing here? Just rip all this out.
So you showed him the workflow, but not the review flow, is what I'm gathering.
No, we did. We would pick and choose our topics, But I mean, because it was the
who has the time?
Website, yeah, it wasn't I wasn't going to spend hours with him on all his code. It's like, all right, your code works, but we don't typically like these sort of implementations, and maybe take a day and refactor this method or refactor that method. But I wouldn't have him redo everything. But I should have. Really, God, I should have. Oh, that was rough. That's been rough. And I started it, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to get back to this next weekend. I don't have time for this right now. Oh, yeah. Our user group website is hurting. I'm gonna pull Nova out of there as well and just make it open source so anybody in the group can contribute.
Fortunately, you don't have any user groups for a while.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and again, I was just talking about the user group I just did the profile on, which I've already forgotten the name. Who remembers the name? That's right, York Region. Good job, John. So
York Region. So you'll edit that back in, like I said it. Perfect.
So the Toronto area, because of the size, they have 3 user groups clustered fairly close together. I've already profiled the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, I think, user group, and then York Region was another, and I'm probably going to profile the third just to get the trifecta up there. But they're getting, all 3 of them are combining, and they're going to do a virtual meetup this month, which is kind of cool. The 29th, what is that? Next Friday? Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday they're gonna do a virtual meetup. I might actually pop in on that and see what that looks like. That could be fun. Nuno's on. You're a little bit of a delay there, buddy. So we figured it out. But thanks for your support. Appreciate it. I love having chat. I love having chat. We should have had this the whole time. I love people talking to us during the show. It's so much fun. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody.
Most of those people that chat with us turn into patrons on Patreon.
We appreciate even more. We appreciate Patreon, even though I still can't log into the damn website. But I'm sure it's still there, and I'm sure our Patreon account is still there. So yes, thank you very much.
It is. I can log into it just fine.
That's good.
I locked you out so that you can't get in there. I know better.
wouldn't surprise me, man. I can't figure it out. I don't know. It's smarter than I am. All right. Are we running long? Has it already been over an hour? Come on now, Chad. You guys have got to step up. You got to step up and let us know when we're running long. We need to wrap this up, fellas. I think this was a good show. What do you think?
I think we're going to have to wrap it up.
All right. I think that's good.
It's a great show. Excellent show.
Excellent. I enjoyed this. I love this. I love what we do. I love this. Yeah. See, he's up at 1:15 in the morning. Nuno. He's on the East Coast and he's still with us. We love people like that. All right, that's gonna do it for episode 187. I think we said we're gonna say 187 is in the can.
How about that?
I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Got into that time. You guys happy now?
Uh-huh.
Plane?
That was a good
All right,
one.
stop and local.
You guys played No Man's Sky at all?
We
I don't play anything.
games.
Yeah, I really don't.
That's great.
I mean, I watch stuff on YouTube. I enjoy watching people play games, but I don't have the time to learn it, get good at it, and care about it. I really don't. Last game I got into was Team Fortress, and that was God knows how long ago. All right, can either one of you tell me what's going on? Why Lysol is trending on Twitter, and people saying Donald Trump just suggested everybody inject themselves with Lysol?
Because he's a moron, and he did.
Did he really say? I mean, is that what he said?
I have a scientist friend on Facebook who took one of Donald Trump's latest videos. He doesn't normally post politics or political stuff. He's always posting just pure science articles. And he took the latest one and started ripping apart like sentences that Donald Trump was saying. From, we can use ultraviolet light to kill the virus, which is true. And he goes, well, why don't we use that on people? We know what that does. It's called a sunburn.
Well, no, it's if
Skin
you use
cancer.
direct ultraviolet UVB, it's massive cancer, like almost instantaneously.
And
Apparently,
then he did talk about injecting some sort of disinfectant or something.
yeah.
The
Apparently,
guy
he
doesn't
suggested
fucking
being
know biology.
apparently he suggested being injected with disinfectants in order to clear the coronavirus out from their systems.
This is after he has a doctor or somebody talk, like give real information. He then steps up to the podium, and instead of just saying, "Thank you, so and so, you did a great job," and that's it. He gets up there and spouts all this crap. I
can see it. I can see it tomorrow. It's like, Mr. President, you suggested people inject themselves with Lysol, and a few people did it last night and they died. Yes, you see, it works. They didn't die of the coronavirus, now did they? No, they didn't. We're good. They don't count. They don't count towards the COVID fact, so we're good.
I
it's
see
working.
Clorox. Clorox is definitely trending.
Oh, man. Yeah, Clorox and Lysol are trending, and I'm like, when I saw that, I'm like, the guy could not have said that. He couldn't have said that, but I don't know. If you guys are saying he said it, even Nuno isn't saying, yep, he said that. I hope why don't he should do it first. You do it first, and we see how it goes. Holy smokes.
Oh,
This
man,
is
I
a
think I just
weird
fixed my
world.
Android app.
I got a new mask.
Dude, you're supposed to
So
be
excited.
podcasting. What the hell? What do you got, Thomas? Let's see it.
You guys will recognize this. I had it made out of an old T-shirt. 1 second.
Ah! I remember that shirt. I thought it was gonna be the Wave logo there for a second.
I thought it was going to be his double claw.
Double claw, that would have been another one, yeah.
Do you recognize it?
Are you? Yeah,
Uh,
totally. I remember.
He didn't,
I
he
remember
didn't
you
have
wearing
his
that
headphones
shirt.
on that entire time we were talking.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how I thought it was going to be your double claw shirt, and Eric thought it was going to be which one?
The Wave PHP.
The double claw shirt, the logo on it, like the design on it, is too big. It did come up, but the only shirt I had that the design actually fit was this one.
I forget what's on the knuckles though. What is it? Code or something or? I can't
Nerdcore, Nerd Life.
Nerdcore. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to put my mask on to go to the liquor store today, and that was weird.
I would say, do either one of you? I haven't actually. I have a mask with me all the time, but I actually haven't worn one. I walked to the grocery store today for the first time in probably a month, and God, that is still a depressing sight. It's like there's still shelves empty everywhere you go. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I go about once a week to the grocery store.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yes, code, but cloud ready. Trying it with Docker. No opinion on it yet. I played with that for a while. I actually still have a version running out on DigitalOcean. It seems to work fairly well. You can actually deploy it on Microsoft's cloud services as well. But again, you're paying for the servers and stuff you're running. That's the only downside of it is it has to run on a server somewhere. So I was looking at it as a possible solution for when I use my iPad and having a nice IDE I could log into and continue coding. But it's legit. I mean, it's VS Code through and through. I mean, there's no. I couldn't find any gotchas or anything about it. I couldn't find anything that didn't work as expected. I mean, you can install plugins. I used the Vim stuff. It worked just fine. Themes, all that. So yeah, you'll probably be happy with it. The problem is getting it running somewhere as cheap as possible. All right, I think that was a good show, guys. I'm gonna stop the stream unless you guys want to chat some more.
I gotta get back to the wife. We got some Tiger King to finish up.
Tiger King, man, that was a. I didn't even know it was. My kids came in and they asked me if I'd been watching. I'm like, nope, and I watched it all in 2 days after that, and I was hooked. All right, everybody watching the stream.
I can't take it in that fast. It's like one episode a week for me.
Hanging out with us. I'm gonna go ahead and kill this now. We're gonna wrap up and continue.
Good night.
Thanks for hanging out with us.